Hello, my name is Ron Hackett, and we're here today because I'm going to give you a crash course in playing rhythm piano. The problem is that most pianists, when they especially with formal instruction, they learn to play from the grand staff. The grand staff, you've got the bass clef, which tells you what your left hand is supposed to be playing, and you have the treble clef, which tells you what your right hand is supposed to be playing. But what happens if you go into a more informal environment? You want to sit down and maybe have a jam session with your friends. Or you're just out playing and somebody asks if you can play a particular tune and they have what we call a chord and lyric sheet. What a lot of pianists don't get to learn in their formal training is how to play from a chord chart. Chord chart, or a lead sheet, will be a piece of music which just gives you the melody and the chords, or the lyrics and the chords, or sometimes the lyrics and the chords and the melody all in one location. But all you're going to have to work from is these chord symbols. So what you need to learn to do as a pianist is to be able to play from chord symbols. We're going to give you a crash course on how to do that today. Basic C chord is what we call a triad. It has 3 notes in it. We'll see that again when we get to the piano here in just a minute. For right now, we're just going to stick with the triads. We're going to play the bass chords. We are not going to play the extensions, so you can sort of ignore that 6 exists. We're just going to play the C chord. The next chord in all of me is built on the E. It also has an extension. It has an extension called, or a number 7. 7 is kind of a special number when compared with a major chord. This means that this is the dominant chord. The dominant chord for the key that it's in. If you'll check your cycle of fifths, locate the E, go counterclockwise 1 step. If we play an E7, what we know, we are in the key of A. Again, we're not going to play the extension. All we're going to play is the root triad. Another chord from all of me is a minor chord. In this case, again, starts with a letter, and that's going to be the root of our chord. Minor chord will either have a small m, which you will find in most music, or if you're reading from one of the jazz books, jazz players like to use a minus sign. In this particular case, the minus sign is not an extension to the chord. That's actually telling me I've got to modify something to make the chord. I have to change the A, the triad, to make it a minor. We'll see this when we get to the keyboard here in just a minute. But major chords are built on the 1, the 3, and the 5. In other words, the first note of the scale, the 3rd note of the scale, and the 5th note of the scale. So in the case of C, that's going to be C, E, and G. For A, that's going to be an A, C, but in the key of A, C's are sharp, so that would be a C sharp and an E. To get the A minor chord, what I need to do is to flat that 3rd degree a half step, which is going to make it A, C, and E. Another chord symbol that we might run across might be, let's say, a D7, which tells me it's a dominant chord. It's going to be a dominant chord. What I need to do is to locate D on my cycle of fifths, back up, go counterclockwise 1 step, and what we'll find out is that we are in the key of G when we play that D7. Sometimes you'll see a chord written with a slash and another letter. For our purposes, we're going to ignore that other letter. When you see that, typically that's going to be the bass note of your chord. We're only going to be concerned about playing triads right now. Triads based on the root of the chord, so we're not going to worry about altered roots or different roots such as playing over the an A bass. Also, when playing in an ensemble, typically that bass note is going to be played by your bass player. Bass player only gets one note. He doesn't like it when you play his note. So try to avoid playing the bass note in the bass when playing in an ensemble. The first thing I need to do when I'm playing rhythm piano is to be able to locate the root of my chords. For this particular example, we're going to be using a tune called All of Me, and my first chord is a C6. So what I need to do is to be able to locate the C. I need the C, which is going to be the bass note of the chord. In this particular case, I'm going to use middle C. The next chord is an E7, so I need to be able to locate the E, the root of the E7 chord. The next chord is an A7. I need to be able to locate the A, which is going to be the root of the A7 chord. The next chord is a D minor 7, so I need to locate the root, which is going to be a D. The next chord is an E7, so I have to be able to locate the E. The next chord is an A minor, so I have to come back to the A. My next chord is a D7, so I'm going to come back to the D. My next chord is a D minor 7, again I'm going to play the D. And the next chord in the A section is going to be a G. We're just going to look at the A section for right now. What I need to be able to do to play rhythm piano is to be able to locate those notes without having to hunt for them. Middle C is pretty easy to find, but if I have to find the E by counting up to it, I'm going to have trouble playing rhythm piano. I need to know that when I'm on C, I can immediately go to the E note. Same with the A. If I need to get to the A note, I need to go right to it. I don't need to be counting up to it. If I have to count up to it, I'm going to lose time. Same coming back to the D. I need to know where those notes are located, where those roots are located. Once I know where those roots are located, now I can build a chord. And All of Me is written in the key of C. So we're going to start with the key of C, and we're going to start with the C chord. C is going to be my root of the C chord. Chords are constructed of 3 notes. We call that a triad. It's going to be the first, the third, and the 5th notes of the scale. So my C chord is going to be a C, an E, and a G. Alright, as we're building chords in our key of C, let's take a look at the second chord. By the way, my C chord I'm going to call my 1 chord. So let's have a look at what I call my 2 chord. That's going to be built on the 2nd note of the scale. And again, it's going to be a 1, 3, and 5. So I have D, F, and A. Now notice that that's a minor sounding chord. To get to a major, a D major, what I would have to do is to raise that third, the F, to an F sharp. And the reason is because in the key of D, Fs are sharp. So if I'm staying in my key of C, my 1 chord is a major chord, my 2 chord, the D minor, is a minor chord. Okay, my 3 chord, going to be built on E. Again, 1, 3, 5. In this case, I have an E, a G, and a B. Again, it's a minor sounding chord. And that's because in the key of E, if I were actually building in the key of E, my G would be sharp. So I have to raise that third half step to get to the major chord. My 4 chord is going to be built on the F, the 4th note of the C scale. And again, it's going to be built on the 1, the 3, and the 5. This time, it's a major chord. If I need a minor chord, and we'll need that for one of our songs, all I have to do is to lower that third step in the scale a half step. So in this particular case, I'm going to be playing F, A flat, and C. My next chord is going to be the 5 chord. It's going to be built on the 5th note of the scale. And again, 1, 3, 5. That's going to give me a major chord. G, B, and D. If I need a G minor chord, and again we have a song that we use G minor, I need to lower that third a half step. So that would be G, B flat, D. But in the key of C, that's going to be a G chord. The 5th chord in a scale or in a key is a special chord. We call that chord the dominant chord. If I know what my dominant chord is, I know what my key is because I can count down 5 notes, and that will be my key. So because we're in the key of C, my dominant chord is going to be the 5th chord of the scale, built on the 5. Now let's look at the 6th degree of the scale. It's going to be an A. Again, to build the chord, I need a 1, a 3, and a 5. Again, notice the minor sound. My 6th chord in a key is going to be a minor chord. To make the major chord, what I have to do is to raise that third a half step, because C's are sharp in the key of A. So I have A, C sharp, and E. Alright, the 7th degree of our scale, or our 7 chord, is an unusual chord. Again, that's going to be built on the B, which is also called the leading tone, because the leading tone is a half step down from the, in this case, the octave of our C. And I can build, again, a triad on that. So B, D, F. But that's a very strange sounding chord. That's actually what we call a minor 7, or a minor chord with a flat 5, also called a half diminished chord. To get to the major chord in this case, I have to raise the third a half step, but I also have to raise the 5 a half step. And that will get me to a B major chord. Now we do have a tune that uses a B minor, so what I have to do now is to flat that third back down. So to get to a B minor, I need a B, a D, and an F sharp. Alright, now let's put those two together. We're going to find the roots of the chord, and then we're going to play the chord that goes along with that root. So for all of me, again, the key of C, we're going to start, it's a C6 chord. We're not going to worry about the 6, which is an extension. So I need to find my C chord. And I'm going to play that for 2 bars. Now I need to find my E chord. Now remember, my E chord has a sharp in it. I'm going to play that for 2 bars. Now I need my A chord. And again, my A chord has a sharp in it. Play that for 2 bars. Now we're going to D minor 7. D minor 7 does not have a sharp in it, so that's back down. Next chord is an E7 again. We're going to ignore the extension, the 7, and just play an E major chord. The next chord is going to be an A minor. The next chord is going to be a D7, so we're going to substitute, we're just going to use a major for that. Remember that in the major I have to raise the third a half step. And I'm going to play that for 2 bars. Now I have an interesting transition. I'm going from a D major 7 to a D minor 7. We're not going to use the extension right now, we're just going to stick with a triad, but to get from a D major to a D minor, all I have to do is to drop that third note a half step. And then the last chord in my A section is a G7. Again, we're going to ignore the extension, just play a root triad. So we're going to play a G major chord. Alright, now let's put it together. We've got our C chord. to play 2 bars of that. Then we have our E chord. We're going to play 2 bars of that. An A chord, 2 bars. D minor 7, 2 bars. Back to the E major, 2 bars. A minor. D major, which we're substituting for the D7, 2 bars. D minor. And G. Now we're playing rhythm piano, so what we need to do is add a little bit of rhythm to that. What I'm going to do to start with, just to make it nice and simple, is I'm just going to play the quarter notes. So what I'm going to do is play for my first bar 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second bar 1, 2, 3, 4. E7. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Going to my A chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. My D minor chord. 2, 3, 4. Back to my E7. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. My D major. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. D minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. G major. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now that we have our chords down, let's see if we can actually put some rhythm to it. And to do that, I'm going to turn on the metronome so that we have a beat that we can play with. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through this chord progression, again 2 bars on each until I get to the end. The D minor 7 and the G are 1 bar each. And I'm just going to play them through the first time, just playing those quarter notes like I did before. So here we go. A 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, once you've done that a few times and you start to get familiar with it, now you can start to jazz up the rhythm just a little bit. Have a little bit of fun with it. Here's an example. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, that's it for today's lesson. I hope you find it useful, and I hope you enjoy playing a little bit of rhythm piano with your friends.